good marks in your boards. Two very feared subjects which we think turned upside down. Do not overestimate your power. To practice in practice. Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. I know that I'm posting a video after 2 weeks, and that was because my schedule was intervened with like 2 weeks of pre-board and a lot of farewell hangover. If you have not watched the farewell vlog till now, go watch it, and I hope you like it. So, as you've read by the title and the thumbnail, today's video is about basically the tips that can help you score good marks in your boards. I am still in 12th, so I cannot give tips about 12th right now, but I have been in 10th. Obviously, I have passed 10th standard, and there were certain tips that helped me, get a good result. I got 94% in 10th standard, best of 4, and I felt like I have certain experiences and tips that I can share with you which can be helpful for you. So make sure you watch the video till the end. I'm going to segregate this video into different sections and subjects, so you can skip to these timestamps if you want to learn about specific things. But without any further ado, let's get started. Okay, so first of all, we are going to talk about the two very feared subjects, which is maths and science. I am a person who was interested in maths a lot, and I liked studying maths, but there were certain tips and tricks that I followed in the 10th standard, and I'm going to only be talking about the subjective part. So I believe that obviously half of your syllabus has been covered in your first term boards, which was an MCQ based paper. Now in the second term boards, you have a subjective paper in which you need to write. You have the duration of, I guess, 2 hours, and maths is a lengthy paper. So I am a person who was really good in speed. I could write really quickly and my paper would get over. But in boards, everything turned upside down. I was confident about my time management skills, but then it turned upside down and I was literally rushing in the last 5 minutes. So please do not overestimate your powers. Anything can turn upside down, so make sure you practice everything till the core. Okay, first things first, in this last month, the only thing you need to do is to practice in practice. I believe that your syllabus has been completed, and if not, please do not panic. You still have time. Go ahead and complete your syllabus, but make sure you do the NCERT thoroughly. First thing, in the NCERT, do the examples and practice them really well. Understand them to the core, because there are a lot of times these examples come in your boards as it is as well. Second thing, your exercises. Do not leave any sub parts of it as well. You know that questions have sub parts, so please do not leave any of them. Do practice them. And you also have one more book in 10th which we had, which is a supplementary book. People generally ignore that book, and I also did that mistake in the previous months of my 10th standard, but make sure you do not do that. Also practice that. Next thing, the extra book that I used, I practiced using 3 books. The first one was You Like. Second was this book, which was given to me by my institute. This was written by our sir, so we practiced this a lot. And I don't exactly remember the third book, but I believe that these were the 2 books that I mainly practiced from. Next thing you need to do is practice more and more sample papers, that is your previous board papers. Now I know that previous board papers were not set up according to the pattern that is in this year, but you can take out the questions from the chapters that are coming in your second term and practice them really well. Some important tips that you need to keep in mind before going into the examination center. I believe that some of the schools had an examination center in the first term boards, but some schools did not have an examination center in the first term boards. So in 10th standard, when you're giving boards, it's your first time, so everything is very new and you have a lot of anxiety and stress about not only how you are going to do the paper, but also how you're going to manage in How are you going to manage when you go in a new school? You need to find your seats, you need to look at your board roll numbers, where you need to keep your bag, where you need to, do the checking, how can you fill your sheets. So there is a lot of anxiety about all of these things. But please do not panic. I panicked a lot thinking all of these things, and because of this, a lot of the things that I learned for my exam washed out from my brain. So do not panic, everything is very easy. When you go in an examination center, there are teachers who are guiding you at every step as to where you have to go, what you have to do, and it's very easy for you to find out your seats and get seated and everything. Now, in maths exam, outside your examination center, every student will be panicking. First of all, avoid taking doubts or discussing questions at the last minute before you are entering your examination center. Please do not do that, because if at that point of time somehow you do not remember any concept, you are going to panic, feeling that you have not studied enough, and that will wash out everything that you have studied well. So please do not do anything last minute. Second, take your deep breaths and do not panic. If you panic thinking that it's your maths paper, everything will wash out the time your question paper comes in front of you. This happened with me, and I believe in my time the paper was very easy, but because I was panicking, I was sweating, my hands were sweating, that is why I could not solve the problems, and I could not even calculate basic calculation I was not able to do, just because the panicking thing, and also the time management went down there. So do not panic, be confident in whatever you have learned, and whatever concepts just apply them and solve your questions. Third, make sure you manage your time, because now obviously you have lesser time. So make sure you manage your time really well. And fourth, check your paper thrice. I repeat, thrice. Also, take a separate sheet for your calculation. Make sure that you are doing the calculation by giving the question number. So for example, the question number 1 has certain calculations you need to do apart from what you're doing in the answer sheet. So make sure you are numbering that question and then doing the calculation, so that when you are checking, you can easily check the calculation there and tally it with your answer. If you're doing it everything in like a khichdi sort of a form in one sheet, it will be very difficult for you, and you'll have to recalculate while checking, which is obviously very time consuming. So these are your basic tips for maths. Now moving to the second feared subject, which is science. I'm a person who was not interested in science a lot, and myself, I struggled in science. So I feel like I cannot give you enough, useful tips. But the things that helped me were, first of all, I used only one extra book in order to practice for science, and that was ULIKE. Next thing, I did previous board question papers. Same thing, take out the questions that are coming in your second term and practice them. And also, if you're a person who is not interested in science, try to understand the logics, because you cannot mug up science. So don't try to mug up, just understand the logics. And if you are not able to understand anything and you're trying very, very hard, don't push yourself that much. You are going to forget whatever you know very well. So don't do that. Time management again is a thing in science, because you have your numericals, you also have your theory, and of course you have your chemistry. So time management again is a necessary thing that you need to keep in mind while you're doing your science paper. The panicking thing, same applies here. No last minute doubts or discussions. Do not panic or sweat out, and be confident in whatever you know. Moving on to the third subject, which is SST or social studies. So I got 95 marks in social studies, and I am so proud of myself for that. So social studies is a subject that I was interested in. So basically, naturally it came into me, and I was more into studying social studies than other subjects. So social studies has three things. You have your pol science, you have your geography, and then you have your history. First things first, in history, answers are lengthy. I will tell you the tips that you need to keep in mind. Because history is lengthy, people assume that it is boring and it is difficult for you to mug up those answers. Need not mug up those answers. Please don't mug up history. It will not help you. What you can do is, once your chapter is over, you have understood the chapter, you have read the chapter nicely, sit down, create a mind map on one page or a flow chart on one page, summing up the story. History chapters are basically stories of the ancient time. So you need to create a flow chart sequencing all the events that took place in that story. And whenever you are trying to learn those answers, just in your mind get a flashback of the story that the chapter is all about, and then it will be easier for you to connect the events and dates and understand the question. Okay, now in pol science is a very technical subject, so I feel like you need to know the facts, so make sure you do that. In geography, again, it is a very factual and technical subject, so make sure you are thorough with your facts, with your your location names, your rock names, soil, everything like that. So make sure you are thorough with this. And again, some people panic in social science instead of maths and science. So all of those panicking things apply here as well, but make sure you manage your time well, because in history you have lengthy answers, in pol science also you have lengthy answers, in geography there are some lengthy answers, but there are also short answer type questions. So one thing that you need to keep in mind is that, first things first, for example, if your question is about, let's say, if your question is about fundamental rights in the constitution and you're attempting that answer, write on the top your heading fundamental rights of the constitution and then start writing your answer in points. Do not write your answers in paragraphs. When you write in points, it is easier for the examiner to check and go through your answers, and they would not go into detail of your answers. If you write in a paragraph, it will all be mugged up. No, sorry, it will all be messed up and it will not look good. Also, underline the important things of your points, because if you're underlining the important things of your points, the examiner will go through only those important words and he or she will know that you have studied and you know the answer, and he or she will give you marks. Also, do not leave any question. Write whatever you know related to that topic. Do not leave any question empty in your answer sheet. Write anything that you know. Even if you know 2 points, even if you know 2 words, just elaborate it and write it. Please do not leave any question blank. Also, I did not use any extra book for social studies. No guides, nothing. But I did practice my previous board question papers and the sample papers that my teachers were providing me with. Moving on to science and Hindi, both of these are language subjects, so I'm going to take them together. Please do not underestimate English as a subject. Do not think you will pass. It's an easy subject. You need not study for it. No, you have to study for English. I scored 95 marks in English. In the MCQ, it was a technical and thing in which you could lose marks, but in this subjective paper, if you write anything in English, you will get good marks. So make sure you are studying well, even if you did not score good in your first term boards. Okay, so for English I used ULike, and I also used one more book which I'm gonna put a picture of it here. I did practice my comprehensions and my grammar really well from the previous board question papers, the sample papers my teachers were providing me, and these extra books. Literature, I did not stick to any guides or anything. I just went thoroughly through the stories given in my books. I read and reread it, and also I answered every question that was behind the chapters and also in between your chapters. So you have those little tiny boxes in which they have these questions, and when your chapter gets over, you have the questions at the back. So make sure you do them nicely. And regarding your poems, make sure that you know the meanings very well, your poetic devices, and the name of your authors, including your chapters. Not only poems, including your chapters. Make sure that you know these 3 things really well. Also in grammar, you need to know the logic behind everything, so make sure you know the logic. Do not try to mug up your grammar. And in comprehension, I would suggest you to first read it when you have the reading time. You have your reading time for the question paper, read it once then when you're reading it for the second, read it for the second time when you're actually attempting it. So this way you are reading your comprehension twice, and because you had read the questions first time, you know where you can find your answers. So I don't think that you are allowed to write anything in your board question paper, but in your mind mark those questions and their answers in the comprehension. Also, if you are given a question for say 2 marks, do not exceed your word limit. Do not make up stories. Stick to the point. Whatever the question is asking you, just give the answer for that. Do not make up stories. English is not about making stories. Okay? And use simple vocabulary. Do not use any big and heavy words that the meaning of which you yourself do not know. Because obviously the examiner will know you have muddled thoughts, and you don't want to project that image of yours in front of the examiner. So don't do that, and be neat in your handwriting, be neat in doing your paper. Also, when you're doing your writing section, do one, for example, you're starting a letter in first page and you are going to the second page, and your letter finishes at the half of the second page. So do not start your second question from that half remaining page. Go to the second page and start fresh. So every question of your writing section needs to be on a separate page. Make sure you underline, make sure you rule out your answers and neatly do your paper. Same applies for Hindi. I did not use any additional book for Hindi. Do what's in your textbook really well. Know the meanings of your poems, know the author's name, know the story, their morals, very important, the message of the story, what they're trying to convey. And manage your time in Hindi, because Hindi is much lengthier than English. I struggled in time managing in Hindi than in English. So make sure you manage your time really well in your Hindi paper. And again, write neatly, underline the important points, rule out your answers, stick to the point, do not use heavy words, and make sure that your spellings are correct, because my marks were gone mainly in the matras. I was really bad with the matras and a lot of marks were gone there. So make sure you're really good with your matras and your spellings, so you go through your spellings. And at last, in order to conclude, I would like to give you some general instructions. First things first, I know that there is a lot of pressure on you from your relatives, your friends, your personal family, that you need to do well in your boards. For some, this pressure acts as a motivating factor, but for some it creates a panicky atmosphere. So if it creates a panicky atmosphere for you, please do not take it on your mind. Do whatever you know. Be confident in yourself and keep your self-esteem high. You are going to do well. You have studied this whole year. Whatever your potential is, it is going to be represented in your paper. Do not panic, just have confidence in yourself. Second thing, please do not rely on guides or any type of extra books. 10th board paper is a paper which is solely based on your NCERT books. So make sure you stick to your NCERT books and you are thorough with each and every word that is given in your NCERT books. For this, you need not study for like 10 hours, 12 hours or 8 hours, 6 hours in a day. No, 3 to 4 hours with concentration is enough. Take your breaks in between, after 1 hour, after half an hour. Do it in breaks. Find the time of the day wherein your concentration is highest. For me, I'm a person who cannot study at night. For many people, they study late night, but anything I do in late night, I cannot remember it the next day. So for me, my highest time wherein I can concentrate the most on my studies will be the evening time or the daytime. So find your time that suits you and sit and study then. Do not take a lot of pressure. You have your 1 month. Practice thoroughly. I'm repeating, in this 1 month, do not add extra information to yourselves. Just practice whatever you know before your boards and try to complete your syllabus. And last thing, everything that is given in your textbook, your NCERT books, including the questions in between, the boxes, those little boxes of information, and the meanings given in science and social studies books, and your questions at the back, plus your summary at the back. Make sure you are thorough with all of these things. Again, as I told you, NCERT is your god right now, so just stick to it and give your best. Give your 100%. You are going to rock it. I know, and I wish you all the best for your papers. So I hope this video was helpful. If you have any queries, doubts, make sure to put them in the comments, or you can follow me on my Instagram and DM me there. And I hope you like this video. Share it with your friends or your relatives who are in their 10th standard and who are panicked right now. It will help them, and I will see you next time. All the best to 12Ds also, and to me as well. Bye. I'm like, oh shit, I've been